Alright, welcome to round 5 of the FRL Division 2 Championship. Here we are in Miami, USA for what's going to be a very thrilling feature race. Just a little bit ago, we saw qualifying and the sprint, and I had to say, the sprint race was one of the most exciting sprints I've ever seen. Having a very close finish between Kermit and Kirito for second place. Kermit barely edging him out across the line by less than a tenth of a second. But winning and taking pole in qualifying is Sebi. He's had a brilliant run thus far. What I'm wondering is, can he finish it out and get a Grand Slam? Although technically a Grand Slam would mean leading every lap of every race, which technically he hasn't done because No Limit actually for a while was leading until he spun around turn 17, just after this long DRS straight. It's right around there where he just completely lost it, I think, and spun. I wasn't able to see exactly what happened, but that's my assumption. Either that or he and Sebi collided. But I'm not going to make accusations of things I haven't seen, so. Brett actually had a pretty solid run himself. He did start third on the grid, but dropped down a little bit, and while a lot of the grid was shaken up due to a little bit of chaos at the start of the sprint, where Jim's car went, how would I put this, perpendicular for a moment. His car went more vertical than I think he would have liked, and that, along with lane damage, cost him so much during the sprint. And I think he's going to be looking forward to making up for it in the feature. So here we go. A Haas in the front and a Haas at the back. We have a huge team split across the board for the most part, but now we have the 5 red lights coming on for the feature race here at Miami for Division 2. And it's lights out and away we go, and I think that's Kirito getting a very good start. He's immediately going to be able to rocket into the lead, unless Kermit has something to say about it. Going into turn 1, we have a collision towards the back. Someone has gone sideways, and I think that was Dub. But meanwhile, Kermit is in the lead, and oh, that's unfortunate for Dub. He's all the way near the back now, and I think he's got a bit of damage. Actually, his car appears to be, for the most part, intact, but he definitely got caught out in an unfortunate spot. Jack gets a 5-second penalty, as we have a lot of cars going wheel to wheel. Welpdang going wheel to wheel with Baby Dwight here, trying to get ahead into 8th place, and it looks like he's managed to succeed. Meanwhile, Destarnol and Brig going wheel to wheel. Destarnol getting ahead, taking advantage of the medium tire. Big Cheese getting ahead of Ellen. We have a ton of racing off the bat. Big Cheese now looking to overtake his own teammate as well. Going into the hairpin section. Can he come out on top? Looks like he can't. But Dub, meanwhile, is out of the race. He's crashed. And that just might trigger a virtual safety car. Oh, and we have a collision here, a pileup between 3 cars. And it looks like it was DK, Wonder Toast, and Jim has been caught up in it as well. That's really unfortunate for Jim. He was hoping to make up for a lot of lost time and lost even more. Meanwhile, Sebi has dropped down to 4th. No Limit now in 3rd, but Kermit looks to be challenging Kirito here. He's going to go for a dive at turn 1. Can he put himself ahead? No, he can't. Kirito's now going to be able to hold on to the lead and keep Kermit behind for at least a little while longer. And Waldo's going to make his way into the pits already. And interestingly enough, that looks like a strategy call. He's going in for a set of mediums now. Meanwhile, Kermit is getting a very good run on Kirito, enough to make a move going into the hairpin section. Can he put himself ahead of the Ferrari? No, he can't. Kirito is still looking to keep himself alongside, but Kermit manages to win out on the inside, and he's going to be able to take back the lead. And now down the back straight, Kirito is going to get a good run himself, and he's already rapidly gaining on the AlphaTauri. He's going to be able to put himself alongside, and now ahead, putting himself back into the lead. But Kermit suddenly burns up a whole lot of ERS to keep himself alongside, going into the corner, the two nearly hitting the wall. No Limit getting a little bit close there, the two Scuderias getting even closer up in front of him. But Kirito holds on to the lead, but Kermit, I think, is going to maybe attempt to dive, but he simply can't, because Kirito is right there in front of him. Meanwhile, Shaggy Wonder Toast going little wheel here, battling for 13th place. Looks like Wonder Toast, taking advantage of the mediums, manages to get ahead. Meanwhile, further back, Banana, who started all the way down in 19th, is up to P11 now, getting ahead of Baby Dwight. At the same time, we are now on the third lap. That means DRS will be enabled, and that's going to give Kermit plenty of speed. We're going to see this battle for the lead continue to heat up in scorching Miami. And Kermit is going to be able to blaze his way, potentially past the Ferrari, and he manages to pull it off. But Kirito is looking to fight back, and No Limit and Sebi are both just watching on, waiting for an opportunity. One of these four cars will be winning the race, I think. Then again, this is Formula 1 and this is Miami. Anything could happen, but these four are looking strong. Despite that, though, Jack is able to keep up and remain in DRS range, bringing along Desternol and Prid. Meanwhile, Kirito looking to make a move on Kermit to retake the lead. Can he make it around turn 17? Just about, but he can't pull it off. But now he's going to have the inside line. But because Kermit is ahead, he's entitled to that line. Now Kirito's going to look on the inside. Kermit putting on the pressure. But it's not enough. Kirito's going to be able to take the lead, but he goes very wide on the exit. And that's going to allow Kermit to immediately make the move back. I have to say, this has been incredible racing we've been seeing, non-stop battling throughout. Yellow flag in Sector 1, that's the Haas of Banana who has spun. Oh, he's having to be very careful here. He can't afford to get in the way of anybody, and he does well to reorientate himself, at least for the moment, but now he's got the Red Bull of Fred coming, and he has to let it by. Meanwhile, Kirito is going to rapidly gain on Kermit here, but it's not going to be enough. He's going to have to remain behind. Although, I will say this. Oh! Who was that? That was Sebi, who went into the side of Kermit. And that's honestly cost him a good bit of time and a couple positions as well, as Estarnell is now looking to make his way through. I think getting a little bit over-opportunistic there. He's still keeping himself alongside. Definitely getting a track limit warning, though. But can't get ahead. Well, what I was going to say was that Kirito is nearly out of ERS. Kermit has been managing his much better. He still has nearly 50%. Jetstar No going wheel to wheel with Prid. And, oh, I think Prid just spun around that corner. That's cost him a lot of time and positions. He's now nearly out of the points as he nearly backs into DK. Oh, that's unfortunate for him. He was doing very well, but now he's dropped completely off. Meanwhile, after all of that battling, Kermit is in a very comfortable position now, but I think Kirito is trying to be careful here. Oh, well, maybe not Welpdang, as Welpdang is now out. And that is going to trigger a safety car. Now, at this point, these medium runners could potentially make their way into the pits for a set of hard tires and go the rest of the race on them. They will be struggling by the end, but it is doable. As for the hard tire runners, if they want to switch to a set of mediums, I would not recommend it. I doubt the mediums could last about 24, 25 laps. Oh, and I just got a hold of a little bit of information. When Dub crashed, he actually had a power issue with his wheel, and it just completely shut down. And so he went straight on into the wall because of it. That's extremely unfortunate. It looks like Jack and Death Star Null are going in, and I think they are planning that hard tire strategy. Everybody else is staying out. Wait, Jack? Oh, Death Star Null is prepping a set of mediums. Jack is prepping a set of hards. I think that was a good call by him. Like I said, the hards should be able to last until the end of the race. So, hypothetically, Jack will not have to pit again. That's Arnold, though, he will have to pit one more time because he started on the mediums. And, well, in the rules of Formula 1, it's required that you use two different sets of tires, and by that, they need to be two different types. So, medium soft, soft medium, hard soft, wet inter. Well, actually, when it comes to wet weather, you technically don't have to. You can stick on a set of wets and pull a nose stopper, and that's allowed. And that rule also applies to intermediate tires, as shown by Esteban Ocon last year in Turkey, going the entire race on one set of hard tires. Well, no, not hard tires, intermediate tires. Those tires were completely gone by the end. I bet if you look online, you can find the image of it. There's nothing left on those tires. I'm amazed he didn't spin out or something, or he didn't get a puncture. Actually, I just realized after all that chaos, Jim has managed to put himself now into the points places in 8th place. He's actually in a pretty decent spot. It's going to take a while for everyone to catch up, though, especially with Waldo all the way in the back. But once he catches up, we should be able to get back underway. Well, while we're waiting for the safety car to end, a little bit of a few fun facts about this track. If you can't already tell by the massive building in the back, this is built around the Miami Dolphins American Football Stadium. And this track, it went through about 36 different iterations before they settled on this version. Their initial version actually had them racing along the bridges in a very, very awkward looking format. Again, if you go online, you can probably find the initial version. I have to say I am extremely grateful that we didn't get that because that would have been awful. And this end result, I would say, is honestly quite good. Of course, everybody still memes about the yacht area where the water is definitely not fake at all. Of course, another fun fact is that this is the first time, I'm not sure if it's the first time ever, but this is the first time in a long time where uh, the US has had more than one race in the US. Well, F1 that is. Technically, if you look back in the older days, the Indy 500 for a time actually counted as being part of Formula 1. So, in that technicality, we actually have a lot of American race winners in Formula One. But it's been kind of fascinating to see how many different tracks have been made around the US. But this one is planned to stick around for a long time, and we're going to be getting yet another addition to the US circuits next year when we head to Las Vegas, and it's planned provisionally to be in November. A night race, so you'll be seeing it Saturday night instead of a Sunday morning for those of you who live in the US. And I have to say, some are not too pleased about what the track layout looks like for Vegas. I will say this, at the very least, it looks better than the Caesar Palace track, which just looked like a deformed E. Alright, so safety car should be coming in this lap. Actually, speaking of, there's a confirmation from race control. So we are going to be going in this lap. Kermit's going to be leading them off, and I have a feeling that battle between him and Kirito is going to resume fairly shortly. But No Limit and Sebi, I think, will be eager to put themselves into the mix on this battle as well. You can see all these drivers really weaving here, trying to warm up their tires as much as they can. For the hard tire runners, though, that's going to be near impossible. It's a very difficult struggle to warm up. But now, Kermit's going to lead them off. Probably not as well as he had hoped, because Kirito's keeping in very good touch with them. Not enough to make a move just yet, but if he continues at this pace, keeps this close, he could make a move down towards that hairpin turn. Oh, and Kermit collides into the wall, getting oversteer. That collision has just cost him the lead, and Kirito is going to take advantage and immediately jump ahead. No flag in sector 1, and that's Waldo who is spun, and he goes into the wall, and that's probably going to be rear wing damage for him. Meanwhile, DK seems to be gaining on Big Cheese. Not so much anymore, though. Big Cheese looks to be pretty solid on a straight line. Meanwhile, Jim looks to be making a move around DK. Can he put himself ahead of the McLaren? No, he can't. He's going to have to remain behind for now. I wouldn't be surprised if Kermit got a little bit of damage from that bash to the wall. He bashed it quite hard, and he is dropping off a little bit off of Kermit. Not Kermit, Kirito. Their names both start with K, so it's very easy to mix them two up. And Jack actually manages to pull off a very clean move to get out of Baby Dwight. He's now in the points places. Meanwhile, Jim is going to look to make a move past DK. He's going to dive into turn 1. Can he get ahead of the McLaren? It's going to be close, but DK is going to hold on to it and take hold of 7th, continuing his chase after Big Cheese. And Kirito is starting to make a very good getaway here. Kermit has lost so much time. He's now out of I apologize. I stumbled over my own words there. He's now out of DRS range. Granted, DRS is not enabled just yet, but he's going to want to do his best to stay in that range. He's gaining very rapidly on a straight line, though. Meanwhile, Jem gains rapidly enough on DK to get ahead of him, now into 7th, and he's free to chase after Big Cheese. I think he's going to want to make that move soon. He does not want DK to be chasing after him. Meanwhile, Kermit is once again struggling in the corners, but is doing pretty well for himself on a straight line. But No Limit is slowly but surely gaining by just a little bit each time, and DRS is going to give him even more of an advantage. Meanwhile, Jim manages to get ahead of Big Cheese. He's now running in 6th. Now it looks like it's shaping up to be a very nice result for the Scuderia Ferrari today. Meanwhile, Banana drops down to 15th place. And Kermit is losing a lot of time. I think he did suffer some kind of damage. And that's going to allow Kirito to build up even more of a gap. Now, Kermit is going to be very vulnerable here to getting overtaken by No Limit, and Sebi isn't too far behind either, along with Alan. And honestly, Alan looks really rapid on the straight line, but No Limit does have more than enough speed to easily clear Kermit and get into second place. He's now free to chase after Kirito. And you can see Kermit doing his best to keep up with No Limit, but he is just losing more and more time in the corners. Meanwhile, No Limit, he has a lot of straight line speed actually. He's already going to be getting enough to potentially get a hold of DRS down the pit straight. Meanwhile, Sebi gets ahead of Kermit, who goes wide, and Alan, wanting to make a move, bangs wheels with him for a moment, but can't make that move finish. Meanwhile, Dustin Knoll is chasing after DK. His tires are 5 laps fresher, and that's giving him an advantage, but DK still has plenty of pace in his mediums and is on the hunt for Big Cheese, but Big Cheese has DRS range, so we've got a bit of a DRS train going on here. Meanwhile, Kermit has lost so much speed that he's now out of DRS range of Sebi and is now in danger of getting overtaken by Alan. And I think Alan's going to have more than enough speed to clear him as well. Alan looking around on the outside. He's going to be able to get partially ahead. Can he get fully ahead by the end of the corner? Yes, he can. He's now going to be running in 4th place. Meanwhile, No Limit is closing the gap to Kirito, with Sebi keeping in range to get a hold of a run of DRS himself. It's soon going to be a battle between these 3 drivers for the lead. It's unfortunate that Kermit won't be able to participate in that. I am quite certain now that he got damage when he smashed into the wall, probably side pod damage or floor damage, because he did hit it pretty violently. His wing does appear to be intact though. Meanwhile, actually, Alan and Kermit are both going in. It seems to be a bit of an early stop. I think they're both going for an undercut. But I think it's a little bit too early because they're... Oh, actually, looks like Kermit does have damage on his front wing. It must be a bit of phantom damage. But he is going in for a set of hard tires, and he's going to make his way back out, wanting to do his best to make up for lost time. Oh, it looks like No Limit's managed to make a move on Kirito, and he's managed to take the lead of the race. What an overtake by him. Managing to get ahead by the hairpin, and that's going to put Kirito in a tough position because now he's got Sebi chasing right behind. Sebi got pole in qualifying, won the sprint, and he really wants to make it a triple whammy here. Question is, does he have the pace to pull it off? Kirito has the pace to keep up with No Limit just fine, but No Limit is so powerful on a straight. That's giving him a huge advantage. Meanwhile, Duster Null gets ahead of Big Cheese, and Baby Dwight and Banana are going wheel to wheel here. Banana having a bit more straight line speed here at the moment with the aid of DRS. Can he get ahead? Wait, No Limit and Sebi have both pit. I think they're both trying to undercut Kirito, who's continuing to stay out. Yellow flag in Sector 3. That's Baby Dwight, who's hit the wall. So now all those medium runners who started out have all entered the pits except for Kirito, who is staying out even longer. Now the only thing I'm thinking he's trying to do is do a bit of an overcut, or he's going to try to do a medium soft strategy. And if he does make this tire last up until the lap 21, he could get it sort of soft to make it to the end. Meanwhile, Big Cheese and Death Star Null are going wheel to wheel here. Can Big Cheese get ahead? It looks like he just might, but it's going to be very close here. Death Star Null, having the inside line, manages to get ahead in the chicane. Meanwhile, Jack is going to be able to continue his run. As I said before, when he pit, he won't have to pit again. So if he plays his cards right, Jack could very well be facing victory. And Jack is going to take a dive on the inside to get ahead of Big Cheese. He's now running in third and is free to chase after Death Star Null. Perhaps not as free as I thought, though, because Big Cheese is still keeping up just fine. And now Kirito is making his way in for the hard tire. The question is, has he been undercut? Well, checking in on No Limit, I don't think so. I think it was well, it's going to be a little bit close here, I think. But Kirito actually has a pretty nice gap for himself. However, there is one problem. His hearts are extremely cold right now. It's going to take a while to warm up, which is why you see No Limit gaining so rapidly on Kirito right now. Kirito will be under severe threat very soon. Meanwhile, DK and Shaggy are going wheel to wheel here. DK, playing it pretty aggressive, manages to get ahead. Now, Shaggy is getting away in a little bit of his own teammate. And Kermit just says, you know what, I'm just going to make my way on the inside and put myself ahead. Now, Kirito's tires are still decently cold, and that's allowing No Limit to keep up very easily. But it's down this back straight where these tires are going to start to warm up a little bit more now. Meanwhile, DK, it looks like he's spun, and he's down in 15th now. Meanwhile, Big Cheese and Prid, they're one of the few drivers who are still out on the hard tires. I think the only hope they have now is a safety car coming up soon. Otherwise, they're going to drop very far down the field when they're required to pit. And here we have the top three a little bit earlier on. They're now in 6th, 7th, and 8th, but keeping very close in touch with one another. As I said before, though, Jack is in a pretty good position. As long as he plays his cards right, he very well could win this. He's going to gain a lot of speed here, enough to get alongside Death Star Null. Will it be enough to get ahead? No, it won't, but Death Star Null's going to break very late, and that might give Jack a chance to go alongside, but it's not enough. Death Star Null is defending very well at the moment. Now No Limit is going to be looking to make a move on the inside, and that was a very clean dive from him. He manages to put himself ahead. Meanwhile, Sebi is keeping in very close touch with Kirito. You can see just how much more speed he's got on a straight line. He's going to be able to breeze his way past Kirito and take a hold of 7th place. Now free to chase after No Limit. Meanwhile, Jack and Death Star Null are going wheel to wheel here. Jack taking a pretty wide line on the exit. It's going to allow him to take the lead. Now, these next few laps are going to be essential because, well, like I said before, Jack, he can make it to the end. Death Star Null, I'm a little bit less certain on that. Yeah, he's gonna have to make over 20 laps on that set of tires. I don't know if he can do it. I don't think he can. Big Cheese, though, it's only a matter of time before he'll have to pit, as well as Prid. Wonder Toast actually won't have to, but his tires are going to be struggling even more. Oh! And what was that? I think that was Death Star Null who spun around and Prid collided with him. And Death Star Null gets a 5-second penalty for that as well. Oh, and I think Prid has just lost his front wing also. Actually, I think his car is mostly intact. I'm kind of amazed. Though I would suspect that at least part of his front wing is damaged. And he is making his way to the pits now. I think he just doesn't have much of a choice at this point. Yellow flag in sector 2. That's 6 with Banana and Waldo coming together, I think. Oh, and Waldo trying to recover, smashes into the wall, breaks off part of his front wing. Kermit, meanwhile, gets ahead of Prentice. Prentice now exiting the pits. Oh, and Waldo's got a 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane, and he's just retired from the session. That is unfortunate. Mercedes will not be getting any points today with both cars out of the race. Meanwhile, Kirito has gotten a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, most likely involving track limits. That is going to be a costly error. And actually, he's got his teammate not too far behind. If Jim can catch up enough, we may still have a Ferrari in the mix for a potential victory. Meanwhile, Kermit manages to clear Fred and take a hold of Ted. He's continuing his chase, trying to make up for lost time after getting front wing damage. At the same time, Wonder Toast is chasing under Death Star Null. This is about the time when these mediums are going to struggle, and Wonder Toast does take advantage to immediately put himself ahead, now into third. That was a very well executed move from Wonder Toast. Meanwhile, No Limit is actually rapidly gaining. Death Star Null is powerful in the straight line, though. It's going to be enough to keep him alongside, and now back ahead of him. Meanwhile, all their battling has allowed No Limit to catch up, and he may be just close enough to get a hold of DRS down the back straight. Here we go, down the back straight. Wonder Toast is going to get a good run of DRS. It's going to be enough to put himself alongside. Could it be enough to put him ahead of the Williams? It's going to be close going into turn 17. Death Star Null braking a little bit earlier than Wonder Toast. Wonder Toast being very patient on the brakes. Death Star Null getting a big snap of oversteer, having to save his car. He can't save his position as No Limit manages to put himself ahead. Sebi, I think, wanted to make a move there, but getting a little bit close, he had to back out. Kirito takes advantage to put himself ahead. Now No Limit is chasing after Wonder Toast, and now we can see the gap with the time remaining. About a 12-second gap between No Limit and Jack. But as I said before, Jack, he doesn't need to pit again. He can make it to the end on this set of tires. Sure, he'll be struggling by the end, but this is doable. If No Limit wants to get past Jack and take victory, he'll need to put in over a second a lap advantage. but Wonder Toast holding him up here is giving him a disadvantage. But Banana's crashed out of the race. That could very well trigger a safety car. I'm actually kind of surprised that it hasn't. Then again, Six Banana isn't on the racing line necessarily, but still, he's right on the track having crashed. I think that would be at least a VSC, but I guess not. Oh, Baby Dwight crashing there certainly could trigger a safety car. Or not. Again, I'm kind of baffled that that wouldn't trigger one. Meanwhile, No Limit, he manages to temporarily get ahead of Wonder Toast. Can he keep a hold of that position? It looks like he just can, and he's going to be able to get into second now. But now there's a huge gap between himself and the race leader. Over 11 seconds. Like I said before, he needs to put in over a second a lap if he hopes to beat Jack. Meanwhile, Death Star Null is flying down this straight. You can see he's so strong in a straight line. It doesn't help, for Kirito that is, that he's completely out of ERS. Wonder Toast has managed to save up much more though. It is able to keep up just fine. Oh, that 30-second time penalty though is going to hurt him by the end and cost him, I think, a podium. You can see down this straight, where Sebi is still gaining despite the fact that Kirito has DRS of his own. Meanwhile, checking in on this lap, No Limit's lap was actually relatively even to Jack. I do think Jack pitting when he did made a very wise decision, and that strategy call, I think, has just handed him the race win. Oh, now Death Star Null is making his way into the pits. He's getting a new front wing and a new set of soft tires. Fred is also making his way into the pits, most likely to do the exact same thing, albeit no front wing replacement. Well, for Zoe, as long as he simply keeps out with the two cars in front of him, while he won't necessarily win, he will at least get his spot on the podium. But No Limit, he's actually lost a little bit of time now to Jack. I think he's starting to struggle on these hards, because Wonder Toast is still keeping up with him just fine. I'm kind of surprised he would be struggling. These hard tires are still running pretty well. They don't really start to fall off until about, well, where Wonder Toast is, but Wonder Toast is still running strong. Oh, and Alan has gone off into the wall. Was there a collision, or did Alan just make a mistake? And DK has gotten a time penalty as well. Oh, and Alan, it looks like he's crashed. And actually, well, we did see Baby Dwight crash there earlier, and that didn't trigger anything. And once again, that will not trigger a single thing. So at the moment, we have a bit of a DRS train here between second and fifth. Nobody really able to make a move on another. Just stuck in a really bad spot. I think Civic does have the pace to overtake Kirito, especially since, like I said before, he's got no ERS left. But Kirito can use plenty of DRS to keep himself in contention. Now, No Limit is gaining little by little on Jack, but That little by little is not going to be enough. Jack is maintaining his pace very well despite being on tires nearly twice as old as No Limits. But meanwhile, Sebi's going to have enough speed to finally make a move on Kirito, and he's going to put himself into 4th place. While I don't think No Limit will be fighting for the win, at the rate Sebi's going, he very well may have to battle him for 2nd. So we have 3 cars here. Oh, No Limit has gotten a time penalty for track limits. That has just handed Sebi a very safe 2nd place. Like I said before, all he needs to do is just stay within range, keep it clean, and don't get a penalty of his own. Because if he does, he's suddenly on an even playing field with the 2 cars in front and the 1 car behind him. But meanwhile, that gap that No Limit had as a disadvantage to Jack, it's starting to close a little bit more now. Where he was over 11 seconds down, he's now under 10 seconds. And he's gaining even more so. I think Jack is really starting to struggle on these tires now, and it's starting to cost him time. But like I said before, I still think he has enough of a gap unless he makes a disastrous mistake. Well, Sebi's getting a really good run. Oh my gosh, he completely missed his braking point. Smashes into the back of Wonder Toast. And that just sends Wonder Toast into his spin, and Sebi's got wing damage for that as well. I have no idea what happened there with Sebi. He just completely missed his braking point. Wonder Toast oversteers into the wall, getting even more rear wing damage. That is unfortunate for Wonder Toast. He did absolutely nothing wrong. He just got obliterated by the Haas. Well, Sebi's certainly going to get a penalty for that later from the stewards. I'm actually surprised the game didn't penalize him for that. That was a pretty big hit. But now, Wonder Toast, I think he would have raced fairly with Sebi, but after that, I don't think Wonder Toast is going to pull any punches. He's going to race as hard as he can to hold on to his position. Actually, Rich Sebi does get ahead of Wonder Toast going into turn 17. Wonder Toast keeping very close, bumps into the back of Sebi. And you can tell Wonder Toast isn't too pleased about what happened. Sebi's going to make his way into the pits. Wonder Toast choosing to stay out. And honestly, I would say that's not the worst move. Only a few laps left to go. As long as Wonder Toast can keep a decent gap, he's still going to get a decent points finish. But Sebi, though, having to get his front wing replaced is actually going to potentially put him out of the points. Actually, I think it has, because Destarnol is coming up very quickly on a fresh set of softs. And, yep, he's going to be able to put himself ahead. Oh, well, never mind. Or perhaps, I was mistaken there, Destarnol did succeed for the moment, but he crashes into the wall! I think Destarnol was so excited that he made the move that he just immediately got oversteer and crashed. That's going to trigger a full safety car! And suddenly, this entire race is just flipped on its head, as Rich Sebi gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Well, honestly, if I were Jack, it wouldn't be the worst move to just go in and get a set of soft tires. And it looks like that's exactly his game plan. He is going in to get a set of softs. And I think that's not a bad move at all because, well, he's going to have plenty of pace, and most of the cars behind him have penalties. The limits going in, Kirito, Jim going in as well. Wonder Toast making his way in, and actually, this is wonderful for Jim, because he could very well be facing a podium. Wonder Toast going in, everybody is going in at this point. Sebi actually won't have to, but there's still a pretty big gap. And as I said before, he's definitely going to get a penalty for smashing into the back of Wonder Toast. But he is going to stay out. Can he get ahead of anybody? Oh, we're just waiting on Shaggy to catch up, as well as Fred and DK, and we'll be able to resume racing for what is only going to be a couple laps. Actually, the safety car could go in this lap. I have seen that happen before, where it will just go in immediately if there's only a couple laps left to go. So we very well could get the call in just a moment. Oh, yep. Speaking of, there's the call. Safety car is going to go in this lap, and it will go in without DK, Fred, and Shaggy. And honestly, that's not the worst case for DK, because, well, he's still got that time penalty. And that's going to allow him to keep a decent gap to Fred. Okay, maybe not. DK is going to be able to catch up to the rest of the field just in time. But if he plays his cards right and races well, he could gain a few positions and still get a points finish. So here we go, off the start. Jag is going to lead them pretty well. Maybe not as well as you would hope, because No Limit is keeping close behind. He's not going to be close enough to make a move, but No Limit nearly ghosted into the back of Jag, managing to stay behind. Oh, and that's Wonder Toast who has spun, and that is unfortunate. That's going to put him out of the points now. I kind of feel bad for him. He's had horrific luck. Meanwhile, No Limit is going to chase after Jack on the penultimate lap. Jim is going to put in everything he has, because if things go just a little bit differently, he could very well be getting on the top step of the podium himself. So I think it would be in Kirito's best interest to find a way past No Limit, because if he can, it would be a double podium for the Scuderia Ferrari. So here you go, down this back straight. Does No Limit have enough straight line speed to potentially pull off a move? I don't think so, but Kirito has a bit of straight line speed himself. Despite that, he's actually losing out a little bit. And here we go now, final lap. These drivers are going to be putting in everything they possibly can as Jack sets the fastest lap of the race. And that's going to allow him to gain one more point by the time he's done. Jim is rapidly gaining on even his own teammate here. Alpine has been doing very well this season, and they look to be getting yet another win for the team. Meanwhile, looks like either Jim was just way faster than Kirito, or that may have been just a little bit of team orders, wanting Jim to stay in contention and still get a hold of a second place. Wait, and who's a DK has crashed going around, and that has just cost him points, and that's put Wonder Toast now in the points places. But meanwhile, having a very brilliant strategy, incredible pace, and a pretty dominant performance in the race, Jack is going to be able to take victory here in Miami, getting yet another win for the Endstone outfit. Jack is going to win the Division 2 Miami Grand Prix. After the penalties, Jim is going to take second, Kermit third. After having no penalties, he's going to be able to get onto the podium. No Limit, 4th, Prid, 5th, Kirito dropping all the way down to 6th place. And a very well-earned driver of the day is going to go to Jim and Tommy for a very incredible comeback drive to go all the way from the back to the front. And once again, we have an Alpine and an AlphaTauri driver on the podium. They're becoming pretty regular faces on there, but Ferrari has really started to step up their game recently as well. I think this championship is going to get even closer as time goes on. Although, maybe not in the case for Alpine, because with all these wins they're getting, they are quickly pulling away in the combined constructors. Still, what an incredible performance from Jack, putting in a very spectacular finish. I'm sure he is very pleased with that, as well as Alpine. But finishing in the rest of the points is Big Cheese at 7th, Rich Sebi 8th, Fred 9th, and Wonder Toast, after a very unlucky performance, will at least be able to walk away with a singular points finish. Well, by that I mean he was only going to get 1 point in 10th place. Still, imagine he's going to be pleased with at least walking away with something after a very, very unlucky performance. But Jack has done a brilliant job getting another victory for Alpine. And we're going to be looking forward to yet another exciting race as we head next week to an all-time classic, Silverstone, Britain. We'll be seeing you all then. I've been Mock Mage, and I'll be seeing you all next time.